Okay, here we go. Hi, everyone. I'm Trixie, aka the Thoughtful Beast. Welcome to the Ready to Talk podcast. Today, I have Latte on to talk about navigating 2020, which that's a lot. Before we get down to it, I would like to point down there. You will see Latte's YouTube channel, so please go ahead and give that a visit. And also, you will see the link to donate to GD McClure San Diego Bailout. They are San Diego's local grassroots bail fund. So please consider donating if that's something available to you. And now, Latte, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Awesome. Hi, my name is Latte. So I'm a dance teacher here in San Diego. I'm not just a dance teacher. I also work in the healthcare field. I'm going to school right now up in the Bay Area. So I commute back and forth. I'm going for dental hygiene. And yeah, I've just, lived here in San Diego for the past 10 years. I teach dance, I teach contemporary, heels, ballet. I'm a dog mom, so my babies are barking in the other room. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. Mm-hmm.
Yay! The doggy babies will continue to bark. That's just how they are. Everyone knows. Everyone knows the dog. It's super funny because we were talking about, before we started recording, Latte was like, this is life now. This is working from home. And it's just like, yes, it is. It's just something that we all have to talk about now. And
getting used to it.
Yeah, for sure. Super getting used to it. Which is, yeah. Let's start there. How has that been for you?
Oh, nice. Now we have the people doing, lawn mowing outside too. It's been interesting. I was at the beginning of the year, I moved up to San Francisco and I was living in San Francisco full time, just going to school, finishing my bachelor's. Mm-hmm. And soon as coronavirus hit, we went fully online, and it's extremely hard to do, clinical courses online. So we were doing that up until, I want to say June is when I finally was able to go back to the Bay Area, and I've been kind of back and forth now. But I mean, as you know, it's been hard. My boyfriend works from home too. I'm trying to work from home. I can no longer teach in-person dance classes, which kind of sucks. It hurts my soul, but I've been trying to adapt. I try to do an online dance class. There's a lot of kinks with Instagram Live. I figured that out. So it was a little bit difficult for me. I'm still trying to navigate it, if you will.
Yeah.
Still trying to figure that out.
Oh, Instagram Live was, I think I tried doing it at the beginning, and I think it's the same time where everyone was like, we should all do Instagram Live. And I remember there was these 2 days in a row where I tried to do it and I couldn't get on.
Yeah.
And then I was trying to connect on other people's classes, and then I couldn't get on theirs. And I was just like, I'm just going to leave it alone then, which is actually one of the reasons why I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to do Facebook Live and YouTube Live because, I mean, the platform is bigger. It's harder when you're dealing with something that's mainly a mobile app, right?
Right. Yeah, that could be it. That could be why. I feel like it was causing a lot more anxiety in me than necessary. I don't know, in-person classes, I don't get nervous, nothing like that. But, when I was trying to do online class, it was just okay, now I have to make sure the cameras are set up, and I have to make sure I have light. I have to make sure it caused a lot of stress. So I was just you know what? Love my students. They understand I'm going to take a creative break through this whole thing.
Yeah. It's so strange because I totally understand it. Because even just playing music, not even on IG Live, but even on Zoom, people playing music is such a logistical feat.
How?
There's so many ways to do it. Zoom provides ways to do it, but it doesn't always work. And it's just so hard. And so it's so interesting because it's been 6 months. So my interest on online live classes has super dwindled. And at this point, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do a YouTube class because they get to cut and paste, and there's no dealing with Oh, like one of the fun things that would happen, right? Like when you're taking class, if your internet's not so great, like you're doing the combination and then all of a sudden it like fast forwards. Because apparently you've been getting this way slower than it's actually been happening. And you're like, oh crap. Like there's like 2 counts ahead of me. And you're just like, I don't even understand.
It's hard.
Yeah. It's super hard.
Just like as a teacher now, it's like it's good though, you know, I was talking to my boyfriend about this. It's good to be able to adapt when things like this happens, because there's businesses out there, dance studios that are killing it now right now. The dance studio that I used to work for up in the Bay Area, Ray Studios, I feel like they're getting more students now because they're able to reach a broader like audience. But you know, if you're able to adapt, like good for you, but like, man, some of us have been struggling.
Yeah.
I've definitely been one of those people struggling for sure, trying to figure out how I can get classes to my students still.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like also because you're in school, girl.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You know, and so that's already like, you know, usually, I don't know if you feel the same way, but like dance, like teaching dance is also obviously a job, but there's just like a lot of joy and connection connected with it. And like the way we are now, like online classes, it's not necessarily the same. It's like not being able to feel that energy, not being able to critique and like make corrections is
hands-on corrections. I love those. Can't do them anymore.
Or even like, I'm like, okay, so can you guys like shift your camera to only your feet, like, and just like step as close as you can, because I can't tell what's happening anymore.
Are you pointing your toe or
right? I'm just like, I really can't tell from this far. Like, we need to only see this, and then let me see. It's so strange. It's so strange. So
it's weird. Yeah. Never would have thought 2020 was gonna go like this at all.
No.
I mean, even my classes, like with like clinical, we were literally like, I have my little practice skull that I have at home, and I was like cleaning teeth on camera. And some of my professors were like still like didn't even break like character. They're just like, yeah, make sure that you're doing this and this and this. And then some of my professors were just like, this is not effective. And I was like, I agree. Like I'm not. I was like, let's just do all the book stuff and then save the clinical for last, because this is just not effective. Like online, there's just an essence of just in-person people that you're missing completely when you go straight to online. It's so hard.
Yes, it is hard. And that's the thing. Like, and we know this, especially as dancers, like you cannot tell the texture of movement really anymore. Like, and obviously depth perception is now gone. Like all those like details that are actually informative though, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like it's different. How could you tell someone if they're not scrubbing hard enough or like too much? Like, unless it's like over super done and you're like, I hear your bristles. Like, this has become like too much. You know, like, how are you? Like, it's so hard when it's not in person. And so I guess, so again, it's been 6 months. So how have things changed for you in terms of adapting, in terms of maybe like taking different approaches, or again, like you said, you kind of took like a break from trying to figure dance teaching out for a little bit. How has that gone for you? How have things changed?
Yeah, it's you know what? I feel in a much better place. I think that as we said before, you know, when coronavirus first started, there was like this random, like super productive narrative. Everybody was trying to be, you know, let me work out, like do all these online classes. And like, I mean, I didn't even put anything out and I felt burnt out from the energy. It was the weirdest thing. And, you know, my anxiety was just so bad. And then once I just kind of was like, you know what, like, let me just take a step away. Let me just, you know, whatever happens, happens. If I'm able to put out a class, then I can. If I'm able to do a virtual private, whatever, like, I'm not going to stress about it. I like released all that stress and anxiety. And I feel like I'm now at like such a good point where I'm like, because like on top of the stress from school, I was burnt out already. So I feel good. And I mean, I'm excited. I mean, it's different county to county, but I know that there's a lot of outside dance classes going on now. So, I mean, I'm actually doing an outside dance class. I don't feel too pressured, because if I felt too pressured, I'd be like, all right, we're going to not do that.
Wait, are you in San Diego right now?
I'm
Wait,
in San
no.
Diego
You
right
are in
now.
San Diego. Okay, when's your
I am.
online class? When is
I'm
your
on break.
sorry, where's your in-person class? When's your
My
in-person
okay,
class?
so my outside class is it's this Friday. It's from 6:30 to 8. I'm gonna have Jamil, my videographer, come film. It's gonna be a twerk class because okay, so it's a twerk class because it's really hard to do contemporary outside and it's really hard to do hills outside. So I was like, we're just gonna have fun because I'm tired. I don't want to be stressed. So I was like, we're just gonna shake our bums and just release the energy. So it's I don't want to say the location because I want to make sure my students are safe because I don't know. I don't want people to be like, oh yeah, they're shaking their butt
Oh,
when we
no,
go there.
that's totally
But
fine. Your guys gonna have
if
to
you want
find
to
Latte.
go, if you want to go, just come, just DM me and I'll let you know the location and the stuff. Oh, and I'm donating 30% of my proceeds to like a Black organization. I actually was going to talk to you about I was looking at that Bell Fund. I think I was going to do that Bell Fund. And also in Oakland, there's a really good organization called People's Breakfast. And they do a lot of really good stuff for houseless folks. So on top of just a whole bunch of other good stuff too, they were helping people out with bail funds. So I probably 15% goes to them, 15% to an organization here in San Diego as well. Because you just got to do what you can
Yes,
do.
yes. And oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like I just last week I had Lauren, her name is Lauren Garces, and she was talking about like, you know, really support your small businesses and small nonprofits because your money there goes a lot farther.
Yes.
Like your time in volunteering there just goes a lot farther for like those smaller organizations. Not that, you know, not that like bigger organizations aren't necessarily great, like nonprofits.
They're not struggling. They're not in the streets.
And they're not struggling. Like that's the thing. It's like they're gonna be fine. So why not find something in the communities you know that need the money and people don't necessarily know about?
Absolutely.
Like they still need that money too.
Yeah.
They definitely still need that money. So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So Lottie Dottie is her Instagram handle. If you like, is it latte / like, and then it's just dot, right?
Latte _ Dottie. I think it is. I think it is. Oh my God, I should know this. I've changed it.
Well, I'm putting it in the comments, so if anyone wants to find you there, you'll know why. It's if you want that class, you're gonna have to DM her. Go take that class.
It's like a $10 donation. Like I said, it's gonna go toward like 30% is gonna go towards the organizations for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I want to go back. Actually, I love the scrunchie that's on your arm.
Oh,
I love these. Really pretty color.
Isn't
and I'm
it?
super down with scrunchies right now. And then sorry, and then two, like what you were talking about, right? Like quarantine happened and then everyone like wasn't working, so it was just like hyper production, and it was just like all about the hustle. My screen just went, oh, there it goes. And like it's so interesting because like everyone got burnt out, and looking back now, it's so interesting that like, because some part of being productive, I feel like the other part of being productive is just like everyone could have taken a break, like a much needed break, because we always talk about how like everyone is overworked, right? Like work life in America is like overworked and stress. And it's unfortunate that like when we had the time, everyone was like, no, I can do everything else I'm supposed to quote unquote do, right? I'm supposed to do, but really it could have been like, oh, actually this could have been like a great time to just like, you know, like relax first, just kind of like unwind, kind of just like going from a one thing where obviously like, you know, when you have a job, you have responsibilities, you have to do all that, that's stress and pressure, into another of like, this is the only time I'm gonna ever get to work out, and putting that pressure is like still stressful.
Not to mention it's a pandemic, so the more stress you're putting on, the more that you're running down your immune system. Like I don't understand it. I maybe that is American culture. I don't know. We love to work. I mean, like the 40-hour work week, I've never been a fan. But even like entrepreneurs, I mean, my boyfriend works for himself and he works hours. I'm like, do you ever just take a break? You're more productive when you rest. And you can actually come from somewhere and create from somewhere. Rest is so important. I definitely learned that, like quarantine.
Yeah, me too. And even from like when we first talked, like having the time to really think and reflect and be like, you know, like when all that happened and people lost their jobs and people did all this, like obviously that was also a time of grief. And like also a really scary time because yes, coronavirus can kill you. Like that's a possibility still. Like, or it can really, like, I know some people who like they got over it, but they can't like walk around. Like they can't do like a straight 20-minute walk like around a mall. Like and like that's, hopefully that doesn't last, but you know, there are real repercussions. So it's so insane. Like, cause that, for me, that is American work culture, because it's like capitalism.
Oh my God.
So it's just like matters first, but I'm just like, but what about our well-being?
Right. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's hard. And you know, we know, because we're like both entrepreneurs, we're both dancers, artists. So like that hustle, like you have to hustle.
You
like,
want to. You love what you do, so you want to. But definitely, I noticed that I'm much more, I can create so much better when I'm not having to force myself or on a deadline, or it just comes more naturally. So yeah, I felt like I was trying to keep up with everybody, man. And like people were crushing it too online, but it just, I think it triggered some weird, like, virtual Black Mirror insecurities of like having to deal with online. It was the weirdest thing. My boyfriend's like, you teach classes, why are you nervous? And I'm like, oh, what if it like freezes, or what if they can't hear the music? Like, it was this weird phobia, I swear to God.
That's so real. It's so real. I feel that so much, especially because it's just like, again, like that connection we have with our students. Like, and also just, it feel so like what's hard, I feel, about teaching online is like when you take a pause to teach, like to answer a question or just make sure everything's clear, like in person, it takes like 2 seconds, right? To decide whether or not, or like not to decide, to see whether or not people have questions. If you do something online, it's like this awkward wall.
And then there's like a feedback and then another feedback. And yeah.
It's like, we've come to a hard stop now. Like, and it's just so, it's so awkward. It's so awkward. Like and oh man, it's true. But I understand that. And it's so weird because I saw that like happening in real time with the people I took class from, like in person. Like it was just a different energy. Like it was like such anxious energy. Because, you know, they were trying to make sure everything was going. They're trying to make sure you could see them, you could hear the music, you could do this, that they always had to monitor. And it's just like, that's tiring.
It's so tiring.
That's so stressful. And also knowing that, you know, like a lot of people who teach, like they don't necessarily have any room in their house to do that.
No, God, no. It was hard. I literally, like, my boyfriend, literally, like, right there is my boyfriend's desk and all his stuff, and then I would be over here trying to like do what I need to do. He's over there trying to do what he needs to do, and it was just like noise and chaos. Like, I commend people that work from home like on the regular, because man, all of us had to really adapt.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. And yeah, and then so therefore there's like one strange layer of quarantine. And then another strange layer of quarantine was just well, I'm just gonna say it, and you can tell me if you feel the same. Because like a lot of people have said it, and I'm just like, well, I feel like I agree. Like I feel like we're in a race war now.
Oh God,
like in a very strange like race war. And like, you know, like I'm newer to activism. I'm also not Black. So like obviously I haven't been in the same thing as you've been or other people have been, where it's just like, you know, like the whole fact that it's just like, yeah, this is the reality of life. And it's very different when you're Black. Like I'm another minority, but that's not, you know, but I have a lot of privilege, especially like Asians sometimes are like white adjacent. Like it's really strange. But like, you know, so all of that. And how has that been for you?
So I think it was what month were we in where it was like literally like Ahmaud Arbery and then it was like George Floyd, and then it was like Breonna Taylor, and it was like Sean Reed, like back to back to back. That was,
I think it was like the very end of March into June, right?
March?
It was like the last,
yes,
June, July. No, May.
it's May.
Sorry, May.
God, it feels like literally like yesterday. Like, I mean, just as like, I mean, yes, as a Black person as well, like, but like as an empath, like, oh my God, I was crying for like, dude, like 2-3 weeks straight. Like, my boyfriend, and my boyfriend's Japanese. I feel like he kind of like can relate because he's also like a person of color, you know, but I feel like I would have talks with him and I'd almost have to like explain to him a little bit more of where I was coming from, like growing up, you know, and I acknowledge, like, I have privilege as well. Like, my mom's white, my dad's Black. So, you know, I have like lighter skin privilege, you know, so, but it really hit me like super hard. Like, I was really emotional. And then I wanted to just figure out how I could help. So, that's when I went into, maybe it's everybody's defense mechanism where we want to go into hyper productivity, where I was just like, okay, so how can I raise money? How can I donate? How can I help? And I was getting like unemployment. So like literally like a chunk of my unemployment was just going to bail funds, going to organizations, because I was just like, I need to do something. And just like you, like, I'm not really in the streets. I'm not an activist. I'm not familiar in the space. I don't want to go out and take over someone's position. It's just, I'm not familiar. So my money and my energy is best supporting the people that are already out there doing it. Mm-hmm. So I was trying my best, you know, to get my students inspired, and, you know, and my students were reaching out to me, and then friends were reaching out to me, and I had like a links and all these things. And then I got burnt out. I started, you know, I got burnt out with just, you know, trying to spoon feed people, but then also like spoon feed people like my Black experience. It was really weird, because then people were also, you know, asking me like really personal questions, and they didn't mean like bad or anything, but everyone's like, oh, like growing up, did you deal with this, and this? And I'm like, oh my God, like trigger warning. Like, yes, I actually did, you know? So it kind of burnt me out emotionally. And I feel like I took a really big step away from social media, which I never do, just because, not because I like social media, but because for business, I like to be present on social media. But during that time, like after the hyper productivity, I definitely took a fat step back, and then just worked again on trying to heal myself, you know. And then I was dealing with kind of just like inner conflict. You know, I wanted to go out and protest a lot. And a lot of my friends were, but at the same time, it's like coronavirus. I'm also in the healthcare field. Like, my school doesn't really want us to go out and be in these huge crowds if we're going to be treating patients. So, you know, I was beating myself up a little bit, because I feel like as a teacher, you want to be involved. You want to help. You want to lead. You know, you want to teach people. But I had to really just, again, practice self-care.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I've been having a lot of hard discussions with just like family members, because I feel like, you know, racism never really went away. And I feel like people thought it did or something.
Yes.
And I moved back home, you know, I didn't move back home, but I was staying with my mom in between San Francisco and San Diego. And I was having like hard discussions with my mom, hard discussions with my sisters. They're like a whole 10 years younger than me. So I feel like they're like Gen Z. Like, I don't know if they get it, but I don't know if they feel like urgency to do anything. I would hope so. And just, you know, talking to people from like my high school that I haven't talked to in years, like just reaching out to me. So it was emotionally exhausting for a second. But I feel like, you know, as the riots haven't stopped, or like the protests haven't stopped, but as the media, you know, hasn't been showing them, everyone has been kind of going back into like autopilot, which, I mean, people I think perceive that as going back to normal. But I mean, for people of color, for Black people, I mean, someone just got shot the other day. So it never really goes back to normal. It's just kind of feels like more trauma for, the Black community. It's sad. It's really sad. I feel like the Black community needs a lot of healing right now. And I have been seeing like a lot of people like doing like Reiki for, people of color and like Black people. And I love that. Or like, just sending energy and stuff, because I feel like it's really important. A lot of people, they want to be helpful. So they want to reach out to their Black friends. But, your Black friends are tired. Your Black friends are a little bit tired.
Yeah, that's so important. And it's so great to see. Like we said, like there are definitely people who are just like, okay, they want to give of themselves what they can. So I've seen the Reiki thing too, or just people. Do you know who Khalil is? Khalil Blue in San Diego?
Oh no.
Like, so like he's been like holding like healing spaces.
Oh, that's
like too, and like so have other people, like Alyssa's been holding healing spaces.
Yep.
And so it's super cool to see that people are doing that like that's being taken care of. Like it's important to see, because it's just like the Black community can take care of themselves. And I feel like at some point some people, it's so weird, like like kind of stay in your own lane. It's just like we're not there like as allies to save Black people. That's not what it's supposed to be. Like, I don't know, especially like I get really confused, especially when it comes to minorities, because it's just like we all know what white savioring is. Like, so like, wait, what's going on? Like, allyship isn't. We're not supposed to push ourselves to the front and be like, me and what I believe for you. And right. So, and it's so strange because like that's the like what you said, right? Like we all thought, quote unquote, we all thought that racism was gone. And honestly, like this is actually something that we've been talking about like a lot. Like different people have said it. Like that's how we were taught.
That is how we were taught.
Like when we think of like the civil rights movement and stuff like that. It really did, especially because like of the way that history uses Martin Luther King.
Oh my God. To
kind of put like a kumbaya ending on everything. It's like, ready? I have a dream speech. Racism is over. Like that is definitely how like history felt to me. Yeah. And then so like it's really strange because it's even as a minority of like someone who's just like, yes, I've face like lots of prejudice and lots of racist bullshit, but like even I kind of fell for that trap where it's just like how and why, and like so those things are more clear now, but it's just like I don't know, we have to be really cognizant. It's just like
it takes like a higher level of like not intelligence, but just like really like looking into yourself and being like, why do I think like that? I mean, even with my boyfriend, like we had a lot of discussions, and it was, he's a real like, he's a hardworking guy. Like he's like, you work hard, you do what you can for yourself, and you worry about yourself, and we went back and forth, and it dawned on me because like I was like pissed off initially, where it was like if I see anything remotely racist, I'm deleting people. So I was like deleting people like left and right, okay? But then I was like, you know what? These people don't learn anything if we don't say something or have these conversations. So as much as like this is annoying to me, and maybe today I have that energy, but maybe tomorrow I will not. I just was like, okay, I'm gonna start having the conversations instead with people. So instead of just like, I mean, unless you're married to your racism, then by all go.
Yeah.
Unfriend. But, I started to kind of change my, like, just, I'm going to delete, you know what I mean? And I started to kind of shift to, let me have a discussion with this person, see where they're coming from, because for some reason, a lot of like, non-Black, non-people of color, they just feel like attacked when people are just asking for basic equality and basic don't kill people, don't kill us, So I started having more discussions with people and just trying to come from a place of just like education and like, yes, I understand that you were raised this way, but we've evolved like in a nice way, you know what I mean? So, and that's mostly with my family. A lot of my friends are on board. I surround myself with some pretty, progressive people, but even with my family, with my mom, I had to have some like hard discussions, just about, oh my God, we were talking about the statues that are coming down. And she's like, that's art. And I'm like, Mom, there was artwork of Hitler too. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean it's good art. No one's going to forget this like history just because we take something down. It's hurtful to other people. So I'd like to think that we're getting places the more discussions we have. It's just so uncomfortable for people that I think that they take it defensively, and I think that they take it as, an attack when it's just communication, So
well, I mean, that's the thing with like white privilege, right? And the fact that's like a lot of it is just like, honestly, like white people have not been challenged. Like, and they're not like, even the phrase white privilege offends a lot of people.
It does.
Which is like, I'm just like, you need to stop. And part of the thing is that I always try. So when I started, refocusing like my podcast, I definitely was just like, okay, Asian, other minority friends, we need to fucking come on and talk about how we're privileged. Like, so like the people who I would have conversations with already like this were just like, nope, I need you to come on and state it. Like, I'll continue to state it because it needs to be like a thing that's not like a super bad word. And if you're a privilege and you're a bad person, it's like, no, we just have privilege. And I had this one of my guests, Jeremy, he came to talk about intersectionalism and like how he's a gay Black man, and like he has privilege in one areas over others. Like, and he's like, that's just real. Like, like those are just things. Those are things that you need to realize. And it's still to this day, and I mean forever, will it irk me that when I try to talk to white organizations and all of them and board members from certain places, they like super take offense to white privilege, and they just don't think that they're racist, even though like we're trying to tell them that their behaviors and practices are problematic. But they're just like, no, no, no. And I'm like, why is it though that every other person of color, including Black people, will admit their privilege like willingly, and will just like say it casually because it's a thing that exists.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to be American is a privilege.
It is. Yeah.
Like, and I feel like that was a phrase that everyone was okay with saying maybe like 5 years ago, or I don't know, even maybe last year. Because it's true. It's just like, you're privileged. Like, like we're super privileged. We are not a third world country. Like, we're not. So obviously, like, we have privilege. Like, I'm privileged to be an American. Like, for some reason, like, I'm privileged to be is taken very different than like, I am privileged. And it's just like, what? Why?
I mean, even with me, like, I had to like, like I said, like, I'm lighter toned. So I have that privilege. And for a second I was like, well, I think that your basic instinct is to defend it for some reason. I have no idea why, but I think that your basic instinct is to be like, well, because life is like hard for everybody. Yes, we know that. But we also know that life is definitely harder for people of different races, of different colors, of different sexualities. We know that. So, for me I came to the realization, I was like, you know what? I will never experience what a darker complexion, beautiful, woman has ever experienced, because I'm lighter complexion, or like a dark male. Like, I just won't, and like, I think that's important, and I started to have that discussion with my sisters too. And they kind of were like, wait, well, we've been teased too, da, da, da. And I'm like, no, but like at the end of the day, you have privilege with your skin color, and I think colorism has to be addressed like within the Black community as well, because I think there's that as well, but also, sexuality in the Black community too, because like, I mean, your friend that came on that was also a Black gay male, so it's intersectionality is a thing. Intersectionality is a real thing. And I think it should be something that everybody knows about. I mean, there's people that are like, what's intersectionality? And I'm like, oh, let me tell you. Let me tell you.
Yes, it is so important because I mean, like everything you're saying, like I totally agree with. And it's so interesting because, you know, people do get defensive and like that's a lot of what people say back to, right? It's like, especially when it comes to like economics, like people are like, well, I grew up poor and I faced the same things. Like minorities aren't the only poor people. And it's like, no one's saying that.
Right.
Like no one is saying that your personal experience with being poor, no one is saying that's invalid, but that's how people are taking it. It's
Right.
just like, I can't say, like, I don't need to say I'm privileged because I had a hard time, but it's just like, but those are two different things.
Yeah.
Like you can be privileged and still have had a hard life and face like bigotry. Like you can, like that, those are not related.
I agree. I think people, and it's funny that, you know, it's so crazy because like I will be so I'm like CEO of Triggered. Like I will be so triggered if I see like someone with a Blue Lives Matter shirt on because I'm just like, oh my God, blue lives don't exist. Like I just go so crazy and like it's just hard for people. I feel like, I mean, people that are defending blue lives, they're like, you know, there's good cops and cops have it hard too. And every time they leave their house, they don't know if they're going to come home. And like, I get it. Like, okay, right. But at the end of the day, cops are not getting disproportionately killed. Like, it's just not a thing that exists. You can take off your badge. Like, people cannot take off their skin color.
No. Yes, thank you for saying that. Like, that's the thing, right? That's crazy. It's just like they chose to be cops.
Yes.
They can actively choose to stop being cops. Like they can. Like what it like, and I mean, I'm like you. That all the Blue Lives Matter stuff. Like, dude, it's super. I get super petty, and I'm just like, oh, you mean Smurfs? Smurfs lives matter too. Yes, Smurfs. Yes, I'm just like, what is happening? Because it's like, yeah, and again, like, no one is saying that their lives don't matter. Like, I don't, you know, it's that whole thing, like from the beginning, where it's just like, you realize that Black Lives Matter is trying to say that all lives matter.
Yes.
It's trying to say all lives matter, including Black people.
Yes.
But because this is not how we act, and this is what is happening or has been happening historically, we are focusing in on the fact that Black lives do matter. But like it just I don't know why it comes out that way. Like, and again, like we can talk about it, but the thing is, like, if we can just like sit here and just kind of like make sense of things and be like,
yes,
you know, like this is what people are doing, then like why can't this happen? Like why can't people come to like the conclusion on their own, just thinking about it, that we're not trying to attack people when we say Black Lives Matter. We're trying to protect people. like what? Like why?
I think people are just so married to their like opinions. And I mean, even, you know, I try my best because I thought about, I'm like, you know what, if I'm over here trying to change someone's opinion, like would I also be like when presented with new information, would I also be, you know, willing to change my mindset? And I've had some changes of my mindset with just different issues, you know. But people, I think, just get so stuck on just their opinion is right. And they just don't want to, I mean, it's like a personal attack. It's almost like you're personally attacking them when you're just giving them information. It's the wildest thing. It really is. It really is. Just coming from my like own experience, like dealing with family. You know, it's funny. My youngest sister wants to be a probation officer. I'm constantly in her ear, just having those conversations with her. I'm like, you know, like these are what cops do. You know how the cops started. Like these are what you're gonna have to be doing. Like, do you know that? And you know, she's young. She's not even 20. She's 20 years old. So I think she just kind of found something she liked and wanted to pursue it. But I just am like making sure that she's as informed as possible before she just embarks on this career path. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because people love to be like, oh, well, you don't have any family members that are cops. I'm like, well, actually, my baby sister,
Ooh, that's hard.
she's
That's
always
hard.
wanted to be a police officer. It's the wildest thing. I have no idea.
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's difficult. That
You're right.
I mean, like, 'cause I can understand, like, when you're young, you like a lot of people want to be cops or like firemen, or
Right. They
you know what I mean?
yes, they look up to them because that's what society has taught us to do.
Yes, because society has very much lied or not have said things about like what
Everything.
the police do, like, and it's just like of course, just because you're a cop, it doesn't mean like you are the scum of the earth, but there is a lot of stuff, shady things happening. And like, do I believe that it's just because I think people who are cops and want to be cops are inherently bad? No, I don't think that at all. I mean, systemic racism. It's systemic racism. It's systemic racism.
Absolutely.
It's capitalism, like going to the extreme and leaving people, like especially like people who do government work, so like the police and stuff, like, and teachers, like being horribly underpaid, being horribly under supported.
Yes.
Like, I believe all cops, like, they should have freaking therapy all the time, because they have to do really horrible things, like, and see really horrible things. Like, they're just not being taken care of. They're not being paid well enough, because even though they get all the funding, it ain't going to that. Like, it's like going to like buying new things. Let's get these militarized weapons and still pay cops like shit. Doesn't that make sense? It's like stuff like that, where it's just like, people are so hyper focused on just like, why are you saying all these bad things? It's like, you need to look at the bigger picture. Like,
My
no one's
dad's a cop.
attacking you. Yeah. Yeah.
My dad is a cop.
Yeah. See? And he's a person, and there's reasons. I'm sure your father has great reasons for like being a cop. Like, and like, but like at the same time, it's just like, we all have to look outside ourselves and like not take things personally, so we can understand what's happening.
Absolutely.
Like, what are the systems put in place to where the cops have become what they are now?
Yes.
Like, and I mean, we can talk about history, but like, we all need to see the bigger picture. We need to see where it started, why the police were made, what people thought it was supposed to be versus what it really was, and like the evolution of that. Like,
I really, really love how I mean, I hope it's not just like my feed. I hope there's more people, because we tailor our feed to us. But yes. I hope there's, I've been seeing more of a push to, I mean, everyone's saying defund the police. And I really like, when we say defund the police, I really hope people mean defund the police and put the money into other community programs that are needed, like more therapy, more community organizers, more social workers, pay social workers. Oh my God, pay social workers.
Yes.
Pay the people that are actually out there doing the work, preventing the need for the police. If we worked on prevention, then there would be no need for the police.
Yes. Yes.
There would be no need for prison.
Yes.
We would have we would get it at the source.
Yes, we would get it at the source. And it's so crazy because that has become like another like quote unquote trigger thing where it's just like, yes, it's defund the police and fund other programs. Like, and it's so crazy because everyone's like, but that's so radical. And it's like, you realize that we've been defunding education this whole time, right? Like education has been so defunded. Like, I don't know if you remember when you were young. I remember when we had to start bringing in supplies for our teachers.
I know.
Remember that?
When did that start? Why did we have to bring tissue boxes?
Gary, I can't remember. Like, I can't remember how old I was because it was so, it became so regular that I'm like, this must have been around like middle school or something. But like, I just remember that. I remember like my, sometimes my teachers running out, like especially it happened a lot in math. Because, it's like doing a lot of problems, erase, do a lot of problems, like just being like, oh, does anyone, my teacher asking like, does anyone have like an expo marker? Because like I ran out of my supplies and I'm just like, this is stupid. Like,
why are we like this?
Right? But it's because we have defunded education. So it's if you think that defunding the police is radical, please look at what we've already done to the other parts of our society and our budget within our cities and like our governments and stuff. Like we have already done it. And like like I know San Diego, like because San Diego, at least, well, I know San Diego because obviously we're from San Diego, so like
Right.
that's in my feed. You know, like the fact that they like upped like the sheriff's budget
I
is like
saw
bigger than
that.
every
Yeah.
freaking thing else. And then when it comes to like the DA versus like public defenders, like the DA gets like hella more money. And then like public defenders, it's like, you barely get anything. And this is partly why our system sucks. And the thing is, like, we all know this because of like life, and also like TV says it a lot. And then like, I don't know, there's like becomes this disconnect where like, well, that's just TV. And it's like, no. We remember that, like, you know, art mirrors life.
Absolutely.
Like,
I was just about to say that.
Right? Like art mirrors life. And a lot of it is like they put on TV and stuff like that because it's like it is real. It's like
it's real.
This
we can relate.
Happening.
We know what they're talking about.
Yeah. And I just defund the police.
I wish we would just glorify, like, you know, I glorify teachers, glorify, you know, healthcare workers, glorify, you know what I mean? Like social workers, the way that we glorify the police. I don't really get that wave.
I know, I don't understand either. And I know, like, especially for teachers, there just came this, I don't know when the switch happened either. Maybe it was the same time we started funding education, but you know, like teachers at some point were more respected, and then came like the wave of, you can't discipline my child. You can't do whatever to my child. I'm like, this teacher has to be with your child for like 8 hours a day.
They're probably not doing it.
Yeah, like more like, yeah, right? Like that's kind of the thing. It's just like, I'm sorry. Like there comes a point where it's just like, dude, like you got to discipline your kid at home then, because there should be no reason why they're acting like this at school. Like,
you just need a better society. Oh my God. Better society 2020.
Agree. Just start over. Let's
throw this whole year away and like let's learn from it, and we'll work on it towards the next year.
I mean that's the thing that we can look forward to, right? Like, because so like coronavirus, the pandemic, like has created this really odd situation where we can look at like these social justice issues and issues of equity, because everything's already kind of fucked anyways. So it's just kind of like interesting because like we can kind of start rebuilding, or like, yeah, like completely rebuilding. Sometimes it's like, you know, you got to take away some of these organizations because to their core has been built horribly. So it's like, but let's start again. You know, if people, lots of business are going to close, and that's going to suck. And hopefully like everything that's like that can stay open, or everything that we build again, we can do it the right way.
Yeah.
Like a way that like,
you know, since you bring up coronavirus again, you know, the two main topics of 2020. I had a few family members actually get coronavirus. And the main issue for them, I mean, you know, it sucked being sick and everybody was scared and concerned, right? But everyone wanted to go back to work, because how are we going to pay the bills? You know what I mean? So it was like 2 weeks into coronavirus and they were feeling better, you know, somewhat. And their CDC nurse was telling them like, okay, yeah, you can go back to work. No second test, no nothing. But then also in the same breath, the CDC nurse is telling them, don't get a second test because you're going to be testing positive for months, possibly. So it's like capitalist society, die for your country. Like,
right. Die for the money.
Right. Die for the money. And, you know, and it sucks because these people, they're strapped. They're financially strapped. They have to work. Like, I've been very lucky. Like, I've been able to stay home. You know, my boyfriend's really lucky. Like, we have that privilege. We've been able to stay home, but there is definitely people that have to get up and go to work every day. And if they get sick, they can't work from home, and who's going to pay their bills? So it's like healthcare is a freaking issue. It's like, I think that's been people have been realizing that just now. I don't know how, that, you know, healthcare is a freaking issue here. We literally, I feel like other countries look at us like, wow, there's America with their third world country, like healthcare system. Like
they do.
Exactly. Like
they definitely do.
It's insane. How are we like the most, like the richest country in the world, the freest in the world? And it's like the people here are suffering. They're having to work. They're having to die for their work. They're getting shot by police. It's just America is a third world country in a Gucci belt.
Oh my God, it's so true though.
It's just no.
It's so bad. Yeah, it's so weird. Like, we are supposed to be like the land of the free, and it's like, but who is that for?
Ooh.
Like the land of the free white people. Like it was very specific. Whoever wrote that line, you were being very specific.
As they owned slaves, they were saying land of the free.
Exactly. And it's just like,
at least America's consistent.
Dude.
We're just reading America at this point.
You know what? Some things need to be read. Like, and that's the thing. Like, it's so hard. Like, I know a lot of people, like, they just, like, again, like, going back to the whole defensive thing, they take it as a personal attack and stuff. But this is honestly why I feel like this is what we get for defunding education. Like, because people, like, lack the critical thinking skills to just
yes.
and see, like, to understand. And also, like, and I can't remember who told me this. Someone, I think it's one of my roommates' brothers, did not learn about the Civil War because their money, like the money in their school, like they just didn't have, they did not have the means. So they just never learned about it. And I'm like,
dang,
really
that's a big
weird.
one.
Yeah, right? Like, that's a big one. And because it's just like, I mean, that is American history. Like, I know a lot of the time we focus on, like, we separated and we're independent now and, like, fuck the queen or whatever. Or, like, but it's like, dude, like, come on. Like, that's a big part of our history. And also, like, the whole thing with, like, history is being told by the winners and by specific people. Like, we get to learn a little bit about slavery. We get to learn a little bit about, like, different Black people in history. But again, it's just like, they're not even controlling the narrative. Again, Martin Luther King Jr., his words are always used to just be like, in ways where it's just like, racism is dead. Like, it's always used like that.
And
like,
he ended racism.
Yeah. He made a speech and that marked the end of racism.
Right.
Like, this was a bold-faced lie. Like,
oh my God, yes.
But, and the thing is, like, again, like, that's what we were taught. Like, we're not little white kids, but that's what we were taught. And, like, it affects you. If they keep
oh my God, yes.
narrative on you, you start to believe it.
I mean,
I do.
Like, I went to private Catholic school my whole life, which, I was privileged that way. My mom sent me to that school. It was an okay school. I was like one of handful of Black people there. But, like, I had all this education, and then I'm over here. My boyfriend's like a history buff, so he knows more about Black history sometimes than I do, and I'm over here like, oh my God, like I don't even know certain historical events or certain historical figures because it's not in the regular school system, which it doesn't make any sense to me. Like,
like Juneteenth, right? A lot of people, this was their first year knowing what Juneteenth was.
Right.
Like, and that's real. Like,
yeah.
That's just like what happens.
You really have to, I mean, you should do this anyway. I mean, especially with like healthcare, with history, you really have to just go out and just do your own research. It really does. It's so important to do your own research because apparently, America's not doing that for us.
No. And it's so, when I think about all the things, all the, oh my God, what is it called? Like the different classes. Oh my God. Okay. My brain is dying, but that's fine. Like all the different things like math, history, science, like all those different things in school. Like I always hated, well, like I hate math too, but that's my only but like, like history and government and politics is super boring.
It is.
But I'm just like, this would have been less boring if you made it contextualized to our society now and not because I feel like you teach us like kind of the basic things, but not actually what that means for us. Like, it's really important that we know what like the different of branches of government does. and how they're supposed to equal out. And we're supposed to know that so that now we can go, hey, that's not happening.
Yes.
This isn't a real thing that's happening. Or we're like, I feel like everyone like puts everything on the president, and it's just like, do you guys
He
not
doesn't
realize?
do anything.
No, and also Congress sucks, and they've always sucked. Like,
Yes.
I don't care what party you affiliate with. They're both pretty, like, and honestly, because you know how America works, we're really talking about just like the two main parties.
Right. Why?
Because but like, how many times have Congress like stalled on anything to vote on anything? Like, we're waiting on our health care. We're waiting on like now we're waiting on to see if like
they're stalling right now.
They're
exactly.
and it's just like, that's not the president. Like, he sucks. Don't get me wrong, he sucks too, but so does Congress on both sides.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, they're just people. Like, my boyfriend says it all the time. He's like, you know, once you take money out of politics, it's going to be fine. But you have to fight for that. And obviously, like, the Congress people are not going to fight for that.
And take religion out of politics. Oh my God.
Which we were taught.
Right.
Right? We were taught that.
Separation of church and state. What happened?
No, it's not. No, it's not. This is super not separated. And like, my like real life example right now, and I'm gonna call them out because they suck. Like, the Awakened Church, like, I live a little bit down from it. Like, they are super like anti-mask, and they're jerks about it. Like, they put signs going like, you know, if you're not wearing your mask, we're gonna say like, oh, obviously there's some sort of like medical or like religion.
Oh my God.
I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, this is like for everyone's safety. Like, they're so like, I don't know. And it makes me sad always, because like, I grew up Catholic too, and even though I see myself as more spiritual, but I still believe in God. I really hate when people use like religion to be horrible people who are not thoughtful of others.
For real.
Like, what is this? What is this? Like, I don't like, I hate that. Like, I hate that so much.
I agree.
6:26. So you didn't that go by quick. Okay. So we end here, and what do I want to ask you? I want to ask you like an ending question.
I feel like we covered 2020 a lot. That was all of 2020.
It's only the first half of 2020. We should have this talk at December. Yeah, we should talk again in December about this specific thing and see, like, let's see what's changed. I guess, what advice do you have for people and so sorry, let me go back. You can repeat things that you have said already, that's totally fine, or you can say new things, but what advice would you have for people who are trying to navigate through 2020? Like 1 to 3 little pieces of advice.
I would say one thing that helped me, like I said before, just honestly, just be kind to yourself. We're going through a lot this year. We're going through a pandemic, race wars. We have an election this year. People are showing their asses. People are losing their jobs. People are going through mental health crisis. And you just never know what people are going through. So just be kind to yourself. Be kind to other people. Don't stress. I think that we can all agree that if we all took this year off to, you know, take a break from our goal, not our goals, but, you know, the deadline that's riding our back right now, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
So just be kind to yourself. Let yourself have a mental break. It's okay to zone out. It's okay to scroll through TikTok for 2 days. I'm talking to myself. It's okay to just lay in bed. It's okay to just feel what you're feeling. Don't feel like you have to do this hyper productivity. Don't feel like you have to keep up with other people. People are just as stressed as you are.
Yes. And that, honestly, that's great advice, because it's just like, though we all need to work and like, you know, like that, it's not like, let's go completely and give up like everything.
Right.
Like, that's not it. But like, it is like important to be kind, especially because, like, again, like you said, there are things coming up that are way more important than like your side hustle, or it might not even be more important, but it's going to affect you anyways.
Absolutely.
So like, you know, sometimes saving that energy, because 2020 has been this wild ride and it's not over.
It's not.
Not over.
I want to get off. Mom, come pick me up.
It's not over. Latte, thank you so much.
Thank you
for being here. before I asked where people can find you, I do want to point out again, like the link down below for Dee Dee McClure's San Diego Bailout. That's San Diego's local grassroots bail fund. So please consider donating to them if that is available to you. And Latte, where can we find you? Where can we
you can find
find
me
you?
on Instagram. My Instagram is latte_dot. It should be that. You'll find me. I'm like the first one that pops up if you start typing that in. But feel free to DM me about classes, about saying hi. I don't care. I'm really friendly.
And then also down there is her YouTube. She has a YouTube, and so you can go look at that too. She's very talented. She's a very talented woman. So please check out her stuff. Yeah, so thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I hope all of you who are listening now or who will be listening in the future have enjoyed this talk. Again, reach out to Latte. She is super friendly. You can reach out to me if you have questions.
Oh, come twerk with me this Friday.
Go twerk with Latte this Friday for a good cause. Twerk for a good cause.
There you go.
And that's how we're going to end because that's like the best.
Love
okay, bye everyone. Thank you.